Russian dictator Vladimir Putin may have shifted the focus of his war against Ukraine to more immediate goals. The Kremlin wants to strengthen its position in the already occupied territories of Ukraine and boost its struggling economy. This is according to new intelligence reviewed by US and Western officials, CNN reports, citing informed sources. Notably, Western intelligence agencies recently claimed that Putin believed that the state of war was in his interests and that he had the momentum and manpower to wage a longer fight and seize all of Ukraine. CNN sources say the perception that Putin has changed his tune has played into the hands of US President Donald Trump and his negotiators, who believe the dictator may be more willing to consider a peace deal. But some senior US officials remain skeptical of Putin and his claims of a desire for peace. And there is widespread concern that even if Russia agrees to the US proposed deal, which would give Russia control over some Ukrainian territory, Moscow could, in the long term, resume fighting to try to seize more Ukrainian land. Here is how a high-ranking Western intelligence officer describes the situation. I think that Putin is perhaps thinking, I don't want to say that he is thinking about less, but he is thinking about what a reasonable goal is for the near future. It all depends on what the United States is willing to put on the table so that Putin can not just claim victory domestically, but actually feel like he has achieved something that is worth a significant pause and then perhaps resume the fight at some point later, he added. The interlocutor recalled that Putin has repeatedly pontificated about the historical origins of the Russian people, and seizing most of Ukraine is his long-term goal, at least those parts that are the cradle of Russian civilization in Putin's eyes. One European official agrees that Moscow is prepared to play along with the US and limit its short-term goals in the war. In this way, the Kremlin may try to improve relations with Washington. However, Russia has clearly not abandoned its maximalist goals in the war. According to the official, Moscow believes that improving relations with the United States will distract attention after a tactical pause, and then they will be able to use a combination of military, economic, informational, and political tools to achieve all of Putin's goals in Ukraine and beyond. At the same time, a senior US official noted that Russia's goal is to gain recognition for as much occupied territory as possible and have as weak a Ukraine as possible. There is no sign that Putin will actually be able to conquer the rest of Ukraine when his forces have long had no major breakthroughs on the front. So any shift in Putin's thinking is explained by this awareness and the US effort to force Ukraine and Russia to agree to end the war. But there have long been doubts among Western officials and intelligence officers that Putin and his circle are negotiating honestly rather than simply trying to drag out the process and continue their military aggression.
On the night of May 2nd, the annexed Crimea was attacked by drones. The attack was massive. As the Russian Defense Ministry reports, the occupiers' air defense allegedly destroyed 89 Ukrainian drones over the territory of occupied Crimea. Local publics reported explosions in several settlements on the peninsula. The Telegram channel, Krymsky Veter, reported that explosions were heard in Sevastopol, Dzhankoy, as well as in Saki, Novofedorovka and Kacha, where military airfields are located. Videos have appeared online that confirm the loud night in Crimea. The footage also shows a fire in the village of Uglovoy, which is not far from the Kachi airfield. As noted by Krymsky Veter, something is burning after the work of the RosPPO. The so-called governor of Sevastopol, Mikhail Razvozhev, confirmed the attack on Crimea. He said that in Sevastopol, the occupiers were repelling an attempt by drones. Razvozhev wrote that the Russian fleet was brought in to repel the attack. According to him, the Russians are repelling a massive combined attack on Sevastopol over the sea in the area of the city of Kherson, in the area of Sevastopol Bay, Bucha and Balaklava. Also at night, the Russians blocked traffic on the Crimean Bridge. Traffic was restored only after 2.5 hours. The head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council, Andriy Kovalenko, hinted that the attack on Crimea took place. The demilitarization of Crimea is an important component of security in the Black Sea. Russia, as it did during the USSR, views Crimea as a military base, and this is a direct threat to shipping. Also, attacks on Ukrainian cities are carried out from the temporarily occupied peninsula. Explosions in Crimea at military facilities are exclusively a component of security, he noted. In one of the videos, a local claims that UAVs flew to the location of the missile brigade. One eyewitness claims that the drones could have hit the location of the occupiers' missile brigade.
2 мая. Охуеть доброе утро в Каче. Ой-ой-ой, блядь, это прям близко. Ой, сейчас. Блядь, это прям над нами, нахуй. Ух, блядь! Ебать! Ах, блядь, пиздец, нахуй. Ух, блядь. Это над магазином, нахуй. Это, блядь. Что, тихо? Сигнализация аж заиграла, нахуй. Это над магазином хуйнуло сейчас. Ебать. Пиздец, нахуй. Аж, блядь, дверь открыла. Тихо, мам. Это аж над магазином. Ебать! 2 мая. Охуеть доброе утро в Каче.
Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ukrainian Armed Forces has carried out another operation against Russian invaders in Crimea Peninsula. As part of the operation, Ukrainian drones have struck an S-300V long-range surface-to-air missile system belonging to the Russian army. Apart from the S-300V system, Ukrainian troops have also struck Obser-3 radar, Kasta-2E2 radar, ST-68 radar belonging to invaders in the Russian-held Crimea. The video posted in Telegram app shows Ukrainian drones striking the Russian targets. This was not the first major operation against Russian troops in Crimea. In the latest of such attacks, Ukrainian forces struck S-400 Triumph air missile system in the peninsula. It should be noted that Russia illegally annexed Crimea back in 2014. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky last month stated that Kiev would not recognize Russia's invasion of Crimea amid speculations that US proposed peace deal would obligate Ukraine to give up the peninsula.